The Indie Writers Club podcast is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Pro Writing Aid has been my go-to tool for revising and refining my writing since my first book. Built by writers for writers, it's more than just a grammar and spell checker. Pro Writing Aid helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. It can even provide on-demand developmental feedback on your entire manuscript with its new manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Get ahead of the competition by heading to prowritingaid.com, sign up for free or use the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.
It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara, Claire and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Welcome to the Indie Writers Club. I'm Cara Claire.
And I'm James Blatch. Hello. Hope you had a nice Christmas, Cara Claire.
Yes, so we were just sort of chatting about this, weren't we? And then we were like, no, we should save that for on-air time. So my Christmas, actually, we sat down and it was me and my mum and dad and my sister. And we were sat there and we were like, this is the first Christmas in our entire lives, mine and my sister's lives, that it's been just the four of us. Because when we were little, there was always grandparents and stuff there. And then there were husbands and boyfriends and we didn't have the kids either. It was literally just the four of us. And it was actually very nice. It was very chilled. We played some board games. I didn't win any of them, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think I was in bed by about 11:30. So perfect.
Yeah. Or we had a similar Christmas day. The four of us, is first time in 3 years. We had both our children here. Call them children. They're 19 and 22.
They're
now.
Still your children.
Yeah, still my children. And my mother-in-law. And we did some similar sort of board games and stuff. But yeah, we had finally had ham. So it's been a bit of a bone of contention in our house because as a child, we always had ham and turkey. We always had a Christmas ham, turkey. It's like the one day of the year where you have two roasts. And Jill, my wife, had never heard of this and had therefore decided that it wasn't a real thing, to the point where I was like thinking, was it just a weird thing that my mum did? And then Emily's big into Christmas. She likes Christmas. And she's come back off her 2 or 3 years traveling, having spoken to lots of other people and said, excuse me, everyone in the world has ham on Christmas. You lied to us, Jill, to my wife. So we had ham. And I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was fantastic.
Was it everything you hoped it would be?
Everything I hoped.
When we saw each other in the pub before Christmas, you were so excited about this ham. I don't think I've ever seen anyone so excited about a ham before.
Did the Nigella Lawson ham in Coca-Cola recipe, and it was delicious, and it's still delicious in sandwiches now. And it sets off the turkey's not the greatest meat in the world, is it? It sets off the turkey perfectly. Can I just say also, to my wife, she's denied me ham for 25 years of marriage. There's been 25 years where I've not had ham at Christmas.
And you stuck at it.
I was meant to feel like a weirdo.
You stuck with her despite that. This wasn't the only argument that we had at the pub that night, because you and Jill were also arguing about advent calendars, I believe, and whether there should be. And I was proved right on that. Well, I thought I was going to be on Jill's side, so I was like asking ChatGPT so that I could come down on Jill's side, and then you were right, and then I was like, no.
So the advent calendar thing is, as a child, I very, very distinctly remember our advent calendars didn't have chocolates or anything in them. They had pictures of donkeys and Mary and stuff in them, and you opened up. But still, in those days where I'm going to sound like such an old fogey now, where
that was so exciting.
Yeah, you got much less. It was exciting in its own right. It got you excited genuinely to, whereas now it's just, can I have that chocolate? But I always remember the double doors on Christmas Day morning on 25. And Jill again said, no, calendars have only ever gone up to 24. And I think that's a European and American thing.
Yes, 24. when we chat GPT'd it, it said that it was more of a European and American thing. And the reason that we now mostly have 24 was just to make it easier for the people who make them if they're all the same. But traditionally, mostly, I mean, it did say that you were both kind of right, but mostly traditionally in the UK, we had up to 25.
I mean, it makes sense to me that you're counting down to Christmas, and on Christmas morning you are there.
You finally get the baby Jesus picture.
Get the baby Jesus picture on 25. Jill's point was Advent is a church period like Lent and Michaelmas, whatever, and Advent finishes on the 24th, and Christmas starts on the 25th.
Yes, good point. And my point was, if now that they're chocolate, the last thing you need on Christmas Day is another chocolate to open. Pales in insignificance to all the other chocolates that they got. Do you know something though? This year, ChatGPT helped me to create an image of Father Christmas caught on our Blink camera, which was absolute genius. Stuart Grant actually posted this. Our author website designer friend posted this on Facebook, and it was amazing. Ruben woke up and was like, Mummy, it's Father Christmas bin. And I was like, oh, it's really early, Ruben. I don't know. We better check the camera. And there was an amazing picture of my living room with Father Christmas putting the presents out. And Ruben literally screamed, lost his mind, ran downstairs. This was at 4:30 in the morning, by the way.
Goodness, we were talking about it because we've got, obviously, at 19 and 22, you're lucky to see children before 1 PM, but actually they were up early. But early for them is like 8 o'clock on Christmas Day.
Yeah,
we were trying to remember those days when they came in at 5 AM.
He actually woke up at 11 PM and had no idea what time it was and thought maybe it was time to get up. So then I had to get him back to sleep. Then he woke up at 1 AM. Then he woke up at 4:30. And at 4:30, I said, we agreed 5:30. And he went back to bed, and bless him, he just could not go back to sleep. So I was like, you know what? I'm up. Let's start the day now.
A friend of mine who will remain nameless on this chat. We were WhatsApping on Christmas Day, and he has, I think, a child who must be 10, 11, something like that. They think he's too old to believe in Father Christmas, but he still believes. And they're a bit worried about him being bullied as he goes to school, etc. So they've decided the time's right. On Christmas Day!
No.
They planned to tell him as he was opening his presents on Christmas Day that Father...
No!
And that's exactly what I'm saying. What, today, are you certain today is the right day to traumatize your child? You're going to associate Christmas with deceit.
We should put a spoiler alert at the beginning of this episode, shouldn't we? I can't imagine that anyone listens to it with kids around, because sometimes we swear, but just in case.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I just thought, tell him in March or February.
Yeah. Then you can tell him the Easter bunnies.
Anyway, he didn't believe it, so they told him, and he said, "Nah, adults aren't always right about stuff," and I've seen him, so.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. There was a beautifully meta moment in my kitchen where I wish I'd got it on video, because Ruben and I were doing a stocking for Knight, the dog, and Ruben turned to me and he went, "It's funny, isn't it, Mummy, that we're pretending to be Father Christmas and Knight has no idea. He thinks it's the real Father Christmas bringing him presents." And I was like, yes, how stupid is he?
Yeah. Santa Paws.
Indeed, Santa Paws. Yeah, he was stingy though. He only brought him like one dentist stick and a toy.
I think we get more fun now watching the dogs with their presents on Christmas morning. They do with the children. Okay, well, we'll do a couple of news items, then we're going to talk about our plans for the year. And I'm going to tease ahead that Cara has a huge announcement to make towards the end of this podcast.
Pressure. I can feel the pressure building.
Building for that, so listen on for the big announcement. So TikTok is selling up in the US, which was, I guess, flagged because they got shut down and then they got opened up again on the basis. And there's concerns about TikTok being Chinese owned and it being on every kid's phone in America. And there was this almost 60s level paranoia about communist infiltrators, Reds under the bed type thing. And a hilariously ill-informed congressional interview with Chen. Is it Chen?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I believe the questions were things like, does TikTok connect to the internet?
Yes. Yeah. He was so patient. Anyway, it's selling up. So it's selling to a conglomerate of American tech, like Oracle, companies like that. Of course it is. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, TikTok, for me, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. As a user experience, it's not anything like as good as it was a couple of years ago. It's very, very commercial heavy now. So you can get 2 or 3 ads in a row, followed by a commission paid post. And you have to sort of wade through them to find the content that you used to like. Having said that, I still do get good traction on it. I still do use it. And when I have posted stuff to do with my books, it still shifts a few copies of books, although I just don't do that regularly enough. But we'll see what happens when it changes.
It's definitely changing. It's definitely getting tougher on spicy content. I think I keep getting they're not community violations. It's slightly different where it will say this can't be shown to underage. But obviously that then, even though the main people that see mine are, I think, mid 20s to mid 30s, that still then kind of pulls back what it's showing to. And the thing that I'm getting the most traction with is talking videos. But unfortunately, those talking videos go to other authors, which is why I've always avoided doing talking videos in the past, because other authors comment, they're really interested, they're really engaged in what I'm talking about, but they are not going to buy my books. And TikTok has always been a huge sales driver for me. But the last few months, I've really not been putting that much energy into it. And so many people are saying the same thing, that they're putting their energy into Instagram, into other places. Because it's not the same. I think it's still beyond there, but we knew this was coming. It's reached the point where TikTok cannot be your main strategy anymore. You've got to have other things going on, other methods of selling your books, not just TikTok.
Yeah. And is that going back to Instagram, or are you thinking about the direct selling kind of Sacha Black way of doing things? And
yeah, in terms of Instagram, I'm getting much more actual. It's slower. It's much slower. Instagram has always had a lower conversion rate, but I'm getting more community feel on there. I'm getting a lot more interaction, a lot more interest from readers. They're engaging in my posts, and my reels are getting much better views. So I'm putting my energy into Instagram, and I'm cross-posting to TikTok, whereas I used to do it the other way around. I used to put my energy into TikTok and then just cross-post to Instagram and then kind of forget about it. So we will see. We'll see how it works. My main tactic, we've talked about this before, going into next year, is really using influencers and trying to put my budget, my launch budget into those.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to get an article up because there's something else we were going to talk about, which was there's this article popped up getting a bit of traction around the place. It was in the New Yorker newspaper or magazine, I don't know if it's a newspaper magazine. And the headline was, "What if readers like AI-generated fiction?" And it followed a study. I say a study, this one guy basically had decided to set up a series of tests. And he had worked with the LLMs, the big AIs, to get them to try and write in the style of some very big, well-loved literary writers. And then he sent these passages out with test groups, like groups of creative writing students. And the shocking truth was, very often they preferred AI's version than the real writer. And so the kind of doom and gloom on this was that AI can write good books. But all the way through this long article, it was a long article, and to be honest, I didn't get to the end of it because I had too much life to live. But it didn't address the big elephant in the room, which is that writing a novel is about storytelling. Mm-hmm. For me, it's about storytelling more than it is the quality of the prose. I know there are literary people for whom they'll read certain writers because of the quality of their prose. I've never been that person. I'm like genre fiction. I like storytelling. I'll read a book that might be badly written in inverted commas because it's a good story. Mm-hmm. And other people at the other end of that scale. So I understand for them, this might mean something. But I think for most of us in genre fiction, can AI weave clever stories that shock you and surprise you and are entertaining all the way through? No, it can't. It does a very, very basic job on that front. It can work with you if you can tell a good story to help you with your writing. So I don't think this is the big shocking.
Yeah, I think it's just clickbait, to be honest. And I've got two things to say on it. So the first is, yes, ChatGPT or Claude or whoever could write you a really lovely sentence or probably even a paragraph. But if you ask it to write a chapter or anything more than that, when it's writing in its best, most fancy prose, it becomes too much. It becomes very much purple prose, which is what we call this kind of very flowery language. This like real, it's too much. It's not comfortable reading. And even if you're reading in a more literary sense, it is still too much because there's no nuance. Like the skill of being a writer is knowing when to go all in on those kind of descriptions and when to pull them back. And AI does not have that. It will do it again and again and again. For every sentence, you'll have all these amazing metaphors and similes and it coming out your ears, and it's actually not pleasant to read. The second thing is actually using a humour as an example. I've got a friend who's an English teacher who has studied all the classics, all the greats. Part of his job is teaching students how to do creative writing. So they will break down a sentence, they'll break down a paragraph, they'll try to mimic it. He can write beautiful sentences, really beautiful sentences. he can't tell a story. He's admitted himself he could not write a novel because he just can't tell a story. He's like, I've got no idea. I have no clue how to get from A to B to C to the end. Like, wouldn't know how to do it. And AI is the same. So I just feel like it's an article that was written for clicky headlines because they're trying to instill fear in everybody, because that's what gets them to read the articles, the newspapers, whatever. And actually it's, showing a few people a few paragraphs that AI has written and saying, do you like this better than Dickens, is just meaningless to me.
It really is. I completely agree with that. So it did the rounds, that article, and the people who want to say, you're in trouble, writers. I don't think it's. I completely agree with that.
No, and we were going to mention Substack as a growing platform, and I see a lot of debate on there, and a lot of people are saying it's almost like AI has its own tone now. Even when it's trying to copy something or mimic something, there's still this little whiff of AI about it. And you can really tell if somebody's used it to write an article, or it's really obvious to me now when people are using it in their Instagram posts to write the captions, or if they're using it on Facebook to write their Facebook posts, because it has its own little way of, it's one of those things that's so hard to actually define, but your spidey senses kind of tell you this is a bit AI. So it's really, I think, actually going to go even further towards what you said, which is not really minding that much whether the writing isn't that good, just wanting to know that a human wrote it and that the story is good. I think we'll become even more forgiving of typos, of, things like that, as long as the story is compelling and we know that a person wrote it.
Yeah, but you might want to leave some typos in your book.
Deliberately. This is the ridiculous thing. People are doing this. People are leaving typos in. People are having to put a statement in the front of their book saying, I use M dashes because I like M dashes, and it's not because it's AI. And I just refuse to engage in it. It's like, I've used M dashes for as long as I can remember. I'm not going to put a statement in the front of my book to say it's really me that's chosen to use these. It's just nonsense.
I mean, I use AI all over the place. I'm drafting at the moment, and I don't use AI in drafting. I don't see the point of it in drafting. You're writing your book, your first draft. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter 100% about the story, because that's what you're trying to draft and find out, and you're going to work that once you get to the end of it. And it certainly doesn't matter about the writing quality, because almost every word is going to be rewritten at some point. So there's no need for AI at this point. The way it could help me, I suppose, is remembering, if I fed everything in, said, remember what happened to this point, to help, a bit like the button there, adding onto the Kindle to summarize your book so far. But after that, I use it all over the place. I mean, I will absolutely use it to tidy stuff up. I'll use it for the proofing and line edit stage. I'll AI the hell out of the marketing side of things and everything. So and I think that's where most authors are, to be honest. And I'm quite pleased about that. They're just not really impacting the writing side of things. But it is transforming the way we do everything else around that.
Yeah, and it's just the kind of vitriol about it that I wish it just wasn't a thing that we had to talk about anymore. Because it's like, for my edits for Chatterley, I've literally got the book printed out as a proof. I'm going through line by line. I've got highlighters, I've got sticky notes, I've got a notebook where I'm also making notes. I'm making voice notes to myself. I'm doing all of that. And when I have done all of that, I will use ProWriting Aid's manuscript assessment. I will use ChatGPT to check for final typos and things. So because I'm doing that, are you telling me that I haven't written the book, or that I don't deserve to call myself an author? It's those people who take it that far that I don't like. And I don't know if we've talked about this on the show, because I sent you an article on Substack from a guy who was living in a really not affluent area of Florida and working something ridiculous like 16 hours a day in order to pay his rent. And he wanted to be a writer and had managed to write, I think he said about 20,000 words, but he had to literally take like a week off unpaid leave in order to write that, and was like, this isn't sustainable. I literally can't do this. So he put that into Claude or ChatGPT, whichever one he used, and said, this is how I write. And in his lunch breaks, he now scribbles down the outline for each chapter. So it's all, the story is all coming from his head. And then he puts that into a whatever LLM he uses, and it writes the chapter for him based on his style, based on his outline. And then he goes on to edit it. But it means that he's actually able to be publishing books. And he said, I would literally never be able to do this. Like, financially, I could not do it because I didn't have the energy, the mental energy to write. And it's all very well for us to say, well, you just make the time in the day. If you're working that much, if you've got a family, are you really telling me that you're going to then get up at like 3 a.m. to try and write for half an hour?
I mean,
it's just not feasible.
This is absolutely what I addressed in my last Substack post about AI, and I did get, obviously, people. The trouble is, the people who are anti are so militant and rude right from the word go that it's hard to have a sort of conversation with them. Quite a few of them just bulldoze straight in with stuff. But there were quite a few people who said, because I pointed out one of the great things I think about AI and the tech revolution that happened in the 90s is this democratization of it, is this enabling of people with disabilities and so on suddenly to level the playing field a bit. And there were lots of people who responded really positively to that. Said, yes, I'm neurodivergent. I couldn't work without AI, and it's enabled me to start writing novels, which is great. So yeah, lots happening. I mean, I did notice there was a news story. I think it was in Jane Friedman's email this week about the Nebula Awards, which I'm not that familiar with.
I hadn't heard of them, no.
Well, they're big awards in America, apparently, but they put out a statement saying no one can use AI at any stage in the writing process to be considered for the awards. And apparently that all unraveled in 24 hours. And we had to roll back on it when people were pointing out, error correcting.
I just don't know how you would police that. And people use it now for research. And most of us, obviously, we will double check it. We don't just, most of us are smart enough, literate enough, aware enough about how these things work that we're not just going to take it absolutely for granted that everything it says is right. But a lot of us use it in our researching process or our outlining process, or just to have somebody to bounce ideas off. Like, is it feasible that, I can't even think of an example because I don't really do it in my books, but certainly when I was writing the post-apoc ones, I'd be like, is it feasible that they could get this crop dusting plane to work after there's been an EMP? And what circumstances would need to happen in order for that to happen?
Yeah. It's great for
That's the kind of thing that you use it for.
And how people die and injuries and stuff like that. It's, I do have a doctor friend who's helped me with somebody dying in my novella, but now I use ChatGPT. I make that realistic.
The reason I did this for people who are watching on YouTube, I just pointed my finger at James because I just remembered what I was going to talk to you about, which was I think it was another Jane Friedman article, which we need to we can maybe talk about it next time because I think it's something that we all need to start thinking about. But it was about the integration of the shopping feature into ChatGPT and how that's going to affect how we buy and how we buy books going forward. And I have noticed now that Chat will give you options for buying things. I was asking it about cameras the other day and which was the best camera to buy for my nephew. And it gave me options. And then it will, at the moment, it sends you links off site. So you click on it and it will go through to Amazon. But basically the ChatGPT is eventually going to have that shop function within it, so you won't have to leave. You will literally be able to buy things within it. And there's a lot of talk about how this could be the thing that finally disrupts Amazon and really changes things in terms of buying books.
Although a nice little Amazon thing I've seen, I've been watching Patriot. I shall use the American pronunciation rather than Patriot, recommended to me by T.D. Donnelly, a former guest on this podcast, and it's absolutely brilliant. I would describe it as, I think I mentioned it before, it's an intelligence drama set in the 2000s. It's American, somewhere between Wes Anderson and Coen Brothers in style, and it's delicious. It's so clever. Everything that happens in there has a consequence. And in so many circumstances, I thought one really good instruction for writing, in every circumstance, when things are finally going to go right, they go wrong every time. Right? I think the writer just has this way of saying it's just going to be too easy if he walks into the police station where the bag is, a few feet from him and gets it. So there's a reason why he doesn't quite get to the bag, which he needs desperately. And to do that as a writer, I think that's the sort of thing I find difficult because I guess I'm kind of want things to work out well in life all the time. Kind of, which is a human instinct, right? So as a writer,
you don't want to make it difficult for them.
Obstacles in the way and disrupt constantly, and that's what that does. Anyway, I would thoroughly recommend on Amazon Prime Patriot. There's a couple of seasons there. But
I need to ask you if you've been watching Stranger Things.
I have. Well, let's talk about that in a second. Let me just say that in the there are a lot of adverts in Amazon Prime. I mean, this is one of those annoying Amazon things, right? You pay for Amazon Prime. You go onto Amazon Prime Video, and then it says, "Oh, well, I want some more money for that." And you're thinking, "What? You want money? Aren't I paying for it? What am I paying for? What am I not paying for?" Amazon need to sort this out. And then they say, you can take the adverts away if you give us a little bit more money. And you're thinking, but I'm already, I mean, I think if it was a free service and they said that, but you're already paying whatever it is a year for Amazon. Anyway, parking that, a lot of adverts, 2 minutes 50 advert breaks through it. Each advert came up with a button to add the product to your Amazon basket. And I've tested it a couple of times and it's absolutely seamless. You just press the button, it says added. It doesn't take you out, because I think the big danger of those red buttons is you're in the middle of watching something. So you're not going to press the button. No one's going to, a very low percentage to be taken away, to be taken off to a website or whatever. But it's on your TV and you press the remote control button and it just says added and the advert continues and your program continues. And I don't know how much adverts cost on sort of streaming services, a lot less than TV adverts used to cost. Bigger authors might well want to think about it.
I was just going to say, are you going to advertise your books?
Well, I don't know if I'm big enough for this, but if you're sort of person who's spending $1 million a year on Facebook ads, or hundreds of thousands even, I would look into that.
I wonder how much it would cost me to run an ad for my Lady Chatterley's Lover vampire retelling on 2 people who are watching the original Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can be that specific or if it's not that specific, if it's just a more generalized thing.
I don't know. Occasionally we get emails from people who broke into television advertising. Have we considered it? We did consider it, I think, briefly for Hello Books. So it's something I could probably explore at some point, but... anyway, you were going to mention Stranger Things.
I was, because, and I do, how much have you watched? I don't want to spoiler anything.
We're up to date. Well, we're up to date, but you should say if there's going to be a spoiler.
It is and it isn't. I'll try to phrase it properly. I feel like a lot of the criticism has been that the stakes aren't high enough, because we're now at the point where the final episode is coming out tomorrow and there hasn't been any kind of, I don't really feel like my favourite characters are at risk. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like if you think about Slow Horses, for example, anyone can die at any point. They just can get killed off. And I don't know if you ever watched the series 24 with Kiefer Sutherland in it. 24. One of the great things about that was that anyone could die. It didn't matter if they were your favourite. And it just sort of feels a bit like nothing really super dramatic has happened yet.
Kill their big characters. I think... Also, I would say the episodes are too long. They needed editing down a bit. There was quite long exposition. And I felt that they were unraveling what was going on in about 4 different ways. Yeah. In different groups. So you had these long periods where people like Dustin was saying, no, this is we've torn into another world. We're going to be sucked into. And then the other 2 were coming up with their own theories about it. And I was getting a little bit confused as to what. Yeah, it wasn't like this single point where they're all coalescing around this is Ventnor. What's his name? Vecna,
yeah. Vecna. Well, then they did, but then we had to sit through, let's make the plan, and this is exactly what's happening. And it all just felt a little bit like, I don't know. I know they had to do that because they had to explain what was going on, but it felt a bit anticlimactic.
I said, Jill disagreed with me about this. Arguing with my wife a lot in this subject.
You are. Christmas, isn't it? She's not even here to defend herself.
I felt 2 seasons were perfect for Stranger Things. I thought season 3 was a bit down, and I didn't like the idea of season 4. And I know they're trying to build up to this amazing climax, but it's starting to irritate a bit. Some of the characters I still really love. I think Dustin, he's not as much fun in this episode. He's changed he's become more serious and less kind of geeky. And Hoffer, I'm terrible on characters.
He's barely in it.
He's so grumpy about everything all the time. I know he's a bit grumpy, but he's like getting in the way of them sorting things out because he objects to everything.
And I almost wondered, did they cut a load of his good bits out just because everyone hates him right now because of Lily Allen's new album, David Harbour? Because he's really not in it that much. And when he is, he's so unlikable because he's just, grumpy, mean, moaning about everything. So it's reminding me a little bit of Lost, which was obviously there were many more seasons of Lost, but I think they ran into the same problem where it started off so strong and so many fans had different theories about what was happening, and by the time it got to the end, there wasn't really anywhere they could go with it that was going to be surprising enough because people had kind of theorized and it just lost its way. Lost.
I've not been.
I'll watch
ridiculous. It was
ridiculous.
Emperor's New Clothes. Every episode was very skillfully put together with a lot of tension, always going nowhere.
Yeah. And
the
so
idea,
many random things like a polar bear or a horse or all these like things that never came to mean anything.
Nothing came to anything. And one of the biggest laugh out loud moments was they discovered the hatch, which obviously was a mind-blowing thing. And they spent half the season trying to get into the hatch, which they couldn't do. And then at the end, obviously, cliffhanger, they got into the hatch. And then it turns out there's 2 ways in and out, and they use them all the time through the rest of the season. Go in and out the hatch, and also the other exit. I'm thinking, oh, that's so ridiculous. Anyway, that did remind me, by the way, we've also been watching, this is a rambling episode, watching the Taylor Swift documentary.
My sister keeps telling me to watch it and saying
Sort
it's
of have
very
mixed
good.
views on. So this is a behind the scenes of the Eras tour, and I think that's the best way of describing it. It's behind the scenes. I felt the first few episodes. I'm a big Swiftie, by the way, huge fan of hers. I felt
you don't say. I'm shocked.
The first few episodes lacked a kind of narrative, and it probably lacked an independent filmmaker. That was very, very centered around her, and I don't think that's who she is. I don't think she wanted to come across that way, but it was a bit like everything that happened around her. And of course, she is the center of it, but I personally would like a director who framed it around the fans and the phenomenon that the show was, and from the outside and then come inside, not the other way around. But anyway, parking that, it got better. The behind the scenes stuff was really interesting. The songwriting sequences were fantastic. I do think that's who Taylor is. She just says what's on her mind, which I love her for that. I love her the fact that her songs are just what's on her mind. She doesn't filter herself, and that kind of, probably you could be like me and a bit grumpy about stuff she says sometimes. I completely forgive her for it, but
we should mention, because I don't think we mentioned it in the last episode, and we briefly touched on it there, the AI function that Amazon has added to their Kindles, which a lot of people have been upset about it. And so what it basically is, an AI assistant that you will be able to ask questions about the book. You'll be able to ask it to summarize the book. You'll be able to ask it about the characters, literally anything you want. And a lot of people have been saying they object from the point of view of they don't know what's happening with their data. They don't know what Amazon is using this for. Is it training AI with their stuff? And that's not so much what bugs me. What bugs me is that I think it's going to lead to, if you're in KU, people not finishing the book and not getting page reads. And I also think it's going to lead to bad reviews, because AIs don't always get everything right. So it could promise the reader something that doesn't happen. It could tell them that something's going to happen that doesn't happen, and that puts them off, so they stop reading. Because quite a lot of times the impulse to flick to the end to find out what happens is quite strong, and you kind of resist. But I feel like if there's a little thing there and you can say, at what point do these two get together, or how does this happen? I just feel like it shouldn't be there. I don't know what we need it for. I don't know what benefit.
Well, I suggested to Darren Hardy at the Kindle Storyteller Awards, I was standing talking to him saying, do you know what we need on the Kindle? Because I'd just read 5 books in a row on a Kindle. Well, 5 books at the same time on the Kindle. What we need is a button that summarizes the book up until this point. And I'm often reading more than one book. Now, that very limited use of AI, where you don't
get on board with that.
You just say, can I have a summary? And it does the previous 10 chapters in 2 sentences each, which brings you up to date of where you are, doesn't go ahead, doesn't speculate about anything else. But I haven't used it, so I'm not really sure. But if you're telling me you can ask questions about what you think might happen, or I don't even see the point of that. And
no, I don't. And it can just get things very wrong, because I was asking Claude to help me with my Chatterley blurb, and I ended up having to use my own brain and write it myself, because it kept saying that Mellors was a werewolf, and I was like, no, he's not. He has a pet wolf, but somehow it's managed to get into, how it hallucinates. Sometimes it's just managed to get into its head that he was a wolf shifter, and it would not listen to me when I was saying, no, it's not. So it feels to me like it's a gateway for just giving readers wrong information, or making us lose page reads because people.
You have to be so careful with AI on this front. I mean, I'm using it extensively at the moment in the AI translations course, which I'm loving, and I'm deep into the prompting. So the last 2 days, I've loved it, actually. I really enjoyed it. But I'm creating these prompts, so you're going to get these downloaded prompts for every English to German, English to Italian, for the 5 or 6 phases we're going to have of creating a really good translation. And the number of times I have to go through the prompts that we're doing, I have to test them. And then I look at what it's produced and I said, you're using Grimleys, whatever they're called, but we decided we're going to use quotes. And it says, oh, you're absolutely right. Yes, we should be using that. And I'm thinking, this happens surprisingly often, that it
Yeah.
just changes its mind in the same thread. So I tell you what we have done. This is a really bit geeky, but so I've been working with Philip Anthony Smith, I think his name is, I've got the name right, who created these prompts at the first place. And what he'd created was a series of a workflow that worked from beginning to end and referred back all the time to what we did before. So when you do the line edits, this is the chapter that we worked on earlier, so blah, blah, blah. I found in testing my versions of these prompts and developing them slightly that the longer the thread, the more chance there is of it misremembering stuff or getting stuff wrong. So I'm rebuilding these prompts so that each time you use it, it has all the information given to it again for this particular chapter. So you could not do anything for 6 months, come back, and you could go from Claude to ChatGPT and do chapter 21 in Claude and chapter 22 in GPT using the same set of briefing.
Okay.
So you get the same consistency. And I think this is a bit of a breakthrough for me in how you use AI is you need to there and then what you're doing, give it everything you want to get the right answer. Don't rely on a long thread that goes back, because I think that's where the problems start creeping in.
Yeah, especially if if you've been using it for a while, like with my ChatGPT, it'll often get confused because I've got multiple projects in there that I've, done things for, and it will start talking about something that I was doing, 18 months ago. It's like, no, that was a previous project. So I think you're right, is actually telling it, like, disregard that other stuff. This is what you're working from. This is what we're working with. Creating prompts is going to become a job. It's going to become a skill in actually how you communicate and how you get these things to do what you want them to do. So I know we talk about people losing out on jobs, but it's already creating jobs, because already people are hiring people to do their prompts for them to make specific things.
But all these platforms like Scribe Shadow and Globe Scribe and what's the TikTok one, Author, Scale, etc., they are basically very clever sets of prompts. And that's the genius. The IP for their product is in these sets of prompts, which are secret to them, that allow them to take a manuscript and then customize what it's asking the AI to do. But that is an industry. You're absolutely right. And if you're good at that stuff, there's definitely openings there. So we've got two things to do. We're 38 minutes in, and we've got to do our plans for next year. So I think we should say from an author point of view and business point of view what we're aiming to do for next year. And then you've got an announcement.
Okay. Shall I go first then?
Yeah.
My plans for next year, I guess I'm at a bit of a pivot point, and I've kind of hinted and talked about this before, but because I don't think that rapid release will be able to deliver the results that it used to, because of AI, because people are writing quicker, because I think that people, especially in romance, are also feeling a bit oversaturated with long series. There's a trend back towards standalones or duologies. I'm actually slowing down my publishing schedule. So I'm only aiming to release 2 books next year. I'm going to really focus on direct sales, trying to sell on TikTok Shop. So I'm doing a print run for my Chatterley book, which comes out in February, focusing on putting my launch money into influencers and PR and things like appearing on reader podcasts and that kind of stuff, which it's all a bit of an experiment, really. But because I've got my main stuff and my translations ticking along in the background, I know what my baseline is, and I know that I can afford to experiment with these in this way. And I'm really looking at that as, okay, what do I want my business to look like going forward? In an ideal world, I want to write 2 books a year that are books that I love, that I can really spend a lot of time on those books, feeling super proud of them, delivering what I want to. I don't want to be tied into series because my brain just gets bored and hates it and wants to move on to the next thing. So to start with, they're going to all be classic retellings or retellings of classics, but I'm totally open to, switching that around within the scope of the kind of dark, vampy, romantasy stuff. And that's
Nice.
kind of it, really. I've stopped ghostwriting. I don't intend to do that anymore. And I'm trying to make the most of putting my rights into different places. So obviously Adam talked about how he has the print rights for my main series, which he does on TikTok Shop. And I've got my audio rights are with Podium for the Chatterley retelling. So yeah, excited to see what it all feels a bit unknown, but I'm excited by it and quite relaxed at the same time, which is a bizarre feeling.
Nice. Well, it's nice to have a clear plan. I like that. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really have focused, and I actually put a post on Instagram yesterday and on Substack about this, which is that my turnover this year was half what it was last year. So last year I did 110,000. This year has been 54,000, which on the surface of it is like, oh my God, your business is failing. It's going downhill. But I have only worked 20 hours a week. I've taken Friday off every single week. I've had weekends off. I've done the school run. I had 3 months where I didn't really work at all, apart from recording this podcast because of my ankle, because I was in so much pain I couldn't write. And I've really been able to just spend a year taking care of myself. I've released no books of my own this year at all. Last year I released 5, and this year I've released 0. And I've written 1. So apart from the ghostwriting that I've done. So I feel really optimistic that I've managed to actually, I think the average author earns about £7,000 a year. So I've made 8 times that by actually not really working that hard and looking after myself and starting this coming year in a really positive place. So I feel like that's a good springboard. But I think it's important to talk about numbers really honestly, because we see so many people reach 6 figures and you see them post about it and they go, I'm a 6-figure author now. And then they disappear and you don't hear from them if things start going down or if they have months that aren't good or years that aren't good. You kind of assume that everybody just goes up, 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 up,
No,
up.
yeah, that doesn't happen.
But also, yeah. And also it was a conscious choice. I don't want to run myself into the ground. I'm a single mum. I have a chronic pain condition. I cannot work the kind of hours that other people can. And looking after myself is my main priority while doing a job that I love. So just more of that next year is my plan.
Very good. Okay, well, I'm going to publish Spider, my current work in progress. And I think what I'd like to do, might as well, make it a kind of aim, is to publish two books next year.
Yeah.
So have Spider done in the spring, and then, because I'm on a roll and I'm writing every day, go straight into the follow-up book and have that out by Christmas. That's kind of an aim for that on the publishing side. On the business side, I'm very excited about the AI translations course. I really think it's going to be one of the best courses we've done. So I want to get that published. Ideally, it's looking like it's probably going to be February. It's quite involved. I've got beta testing to go through and all the rest of it. And I haven't actually started recording it yet. It's just writing it at the moment. So, but beyond that, I mean, I have such a busy year built in. We've got the conference in June. We have our writers retreat. I'm going to Australia and New Zealand in August. So I'm speaking at the Romance Writers of Australia conference in August in Darwin. I would like to hold like a 1-day event in Brisbane and possibly Sydney as well, if people. And I've got a lot of interest in that on the Facebook group. So I need to look into the logistics of that. But if people want to come and spend a day just chatting about indie stuff, and we'll put on a couple of sessions for people, I'd like to do that as well. So I've got quite a few things to do, but I think publishing wise, 2 books next year would be amazing.
Yes. I mean, your plate is full.
Yeah.
You wear the most hats of anybody that I know in terms of your different businesses and stuff, because you're still working with Vinci as well, and the conference in June takes up the planning, and the energy that goes into that is just absolutely epic.
Yes, an insane amount. And on that front, when does this go out? It would be after the date. There's no point in me saying to people that the price, the early bird offer, finishes on the 1st of January. So, but I think this goes out after that.
Are we going to release this? I didn't know if we were going to release it early for New Year or if we're just going to release it on Friday as normal. So what day will that be? So this will be going out. We keep saying next year. This will be going out in 2026.
Oh, so it is already next year.
It's already next year. We're in the future.
Yeah. We're in the past, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
Where I like being. Okay, and finally, Cara Claire, you have a big announcement to make.
I do. I'm so nervous. I don't want to say it. My big announcement is that I am leaving the Indie Writers Club podcast. at the same time that it transitions back into the Self-Publishing Show podcast, which is, I don't want to get emotional. It's been a really hard decision, but I think from what I've just said, everyone will understand that I'm trying to be really, really intentional about the projects that I'm taking on, where I'm putting my energy. And it was more a thinking ahead thing and knowing that probably by the middle of 2026, I would be feeling like I had too much on my plate. If things continue to, or when, if we're manifesting, to grow the way that I want them to with my business. And as James is making the transition now, it felt like a good time to do that. So it's so many mixed emotions because it's just been so important to me in so many ways.
I know a lot of people are going to be very shocked and sad to hear that you're going, as I was when you told me. But the way you explained it, it was a well thought through decision.
Yeah, it was not a rash decision. It was really, and telling you now was really a case of thinking about what's going to be best for the show, for you, for as there's a transition happening anyway. It's better to do it now than in. And this is something that on a personal level I've been really working on, is actually just thinking ahead and trying to make decisions that align with keeping me in this kind of calm, peaceful place. So yeah, it's difficult. I'm going to really miss it, but I'll still see you. I'll still see you in the pub.
Yes, you won't.
Maybe you'll have me on as a guest every now and again.
Definitely. So just in terms of timetable, so the last episode with Cara will be at the end of January, and the first episode in February, which is the 6th, will be me by myself, and then on the 12th I will reveal my new co-host.
Yes, although I was just saying before we started recording that I expect a period of mourning, ideally.
2 years.
James said 2 years. I mean, I would have settled for 2 weeks, wearing black, just like maybe a little cardboard cutout of me next to you.
Good in a veil, I think.
I think you would. But I'm really going to miss everybody. The community's been amazing. I'll save like big speeches and whatever for my last episode. But yeah, it was a tough decision, but I think it's the best one for everybody. So
yeah. Well, we love you, Cara. I speak on
We
behalf
love you
of the
too.
audience. So, and thank you for being part of it. We'll do all that when we do your last episode. So yes, that is the big news for 20. Now that we're in 2026, now that we've worked out that we're in 2026. Yeah, can you believe it's next year? Okay, all right. Well, on that bombshell, and I think I can say
I
that
know, we're just going to drop that and then leave.
On that bombshell, we'll say goodbye, and we will speak to you next week.
We will see you soon.
Support the podcast and get exclusive access by joining our Patreon. From just $1 an episode, you'll be invited to our Discord server, where the weekly discussion continues every day. And our 2 top tiers include a monthly live Q&A with James and Cara. Head to indiewritersclub.com/support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you next Friday.
The Indie Writers Club podcast is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Built by writers for writers, Pro Writing Aid doesn't just check spelling and grammar. It helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. Now it can even provide on-demand developmental feedback on your entire manuscript with its manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Give your writing a competitive advantage by heading to prowritingaid.com. You can also sign up for free or use the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.